Back in 2012, there was a brutal gang rape that took place in New Delhi. In fact, a 23-year-old girl was raped on a bus, and the rapists actually used an iron rod to assault her, and then they left her on the side of the road, and she died 2 weeks later due to internal injuries. Now, one of the men who was convicted in this brutal gang rape, a guy by the name of Mukesh Singh, is featured in a documentary about this incident, right? And he has been convicted. He is sentenced to death, basically. He got the death penalty as a result of what he did. And he's basically blaming the rape on the woman. Here's what he had to say about it. A girl is far more responsible for rape than a boy. A decent girl won't roam around at 9 o'clock at night. Housework and housekeeping is for girls, not roaming in discos and bars at night, doing wrong things, wearing wrong clothes. Now, the rape happened around 9 o'clock at night. She was tricked into getting on the bus. She thought the bus was going to take her home. And then the men on the bus proceeded to take turns raping her. He also said that she wouldn't have died if she didn't fight back. Apparently, she was fighting back, and he's like, look, it was her fault for fighting back. She should have just taken it, and then, you know, maybe we wouldn't have killed her.
So she had a boyfriend with her, too. If we don't know what the relation was, but it was a friend who was male, and they, you know, severely assaulted him and then raped her. And so they said, well, you shouldn't have been out with him or anybody at 9 o'clock this way. So now I find this story interesting for a couple of reasons. One, you will have people saying less raw versions of this in politics.
Of course,
and
yes.
Whether it's in India, whether it's in Middle Eastern countries or in the U.S., right? You'll have people saying, well, like on Fox News recently, Stacey Dash said, well, if they weren't naughty girls, they wouldn't have gotten into trouble in the first place.
Yep.
Now, but so those thought leaders, such as they are, God help us all, influence guys like this. It reminded me in some bizarre way of Putin, because Putin, he doesn't go out and assassinate a political opponent. He allows an atmosphere in which vigilantes roam the land, right? And then goes, oh, golly gee, what could I do? That's why Pussy Riot supporters will be beaten by guys en masse, and then he won't do anything about it,
right.
Sending a clear message. So when politicians say, hey, the girls kind of had it coming, it empowers idiots like this on the ground level to do what they do. He just puts it in a more, I mean, it's hideously honest way where he says, I don't know, this is what we believe, so this is what I did.
Yeah.
But when you hear it in its real form, I mean, it's chilling, right?
I think it's the lack of remorse that's chilling. Like the fact that he has convinced himself that what he did wasn't wrong. And he has this idea, by the way, like his comments shouldn't just be insulting to women, right? They should also be insulting to men, especially considering the fact that he is making a statement that men are all animals that can't control themselves. And so, yeah, if a woman is on the streets at 9 o'clock at night, of course we're gonna rape her. That's how us men are. It's disgusting.
And the horrible irony of him saying, well, she was doing wrong things. No, you fucking animal. You were doing wrong things. They went out to a movie and they were trying to get a bus home. And you gang raped her and then you used the rod until she had internal bleeding and died later in the hospital. And then he says, well, you know what? To add one more insult to already hideous injury. He says, oh, you shouldn't punish me that severely. Because if you do, it'll motivate the other rapists to just kill their victims immediately. But you did kill her. Yeah, but she died later in the hospital. If we'd known that, you know, that we were going to get such, you know, harsh punishment, we would have killed her immediately so she couldn't identify us at all. It's stunning.
So there's a question as to whether or not people like this should have any voice at all, whether or not they should have any platform to speak on. And, you know, he is featured in the documentary India's Daughter. And I think that they should, right? Not because I agree with what he has to say. Obviously, I don't. But I think it's important to understand the psychology behind people like this.
No, that's why honest and open discussion is important. There's no sense in hiding the truth. Some people feel this way. That's why they act this way. It's important to know where they stand so that we can learn how to fight back against it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this guy, you know, he is the worst embodiment of this ideology. But some shades of this ideology roam the land. And it's not just in India, It's also here in the U.S. when they blame the victim and they find no irony in the fact that the rapist is the one who's actually the person doing horrible things as they continue to blame the poor girl who got raped.